So I've had the Pixel 6a for 3 full days now, and as you can see with the title, I called it 3 days in hell. This is actually is kind of just kind of something funny because the phone's perfectly fine. I'm not having any problems with it. I think that it's a pretty good phone, but I've spent the last 3 days almost more time replying to comments and questions from people that just want something to be wrong with this phone. The 60 hertz is not good. It's subpar. It's terrible. It should be 90 hertz. The tensor chip is terrible. It's no good. It's overheating. The fingerprint sensor is reading fingers that it shouldn't read. It's overpriced. You shouldn't buy this phone. There's so much stuff. So much. And a lot of this gets in the way because it's a phone, and as a phone, the more seamless a phone is, the better that it is. And that's one of the things, that's one of the best qualities about iPhones usually. Like even right now, I'm running the latest beta that they have for iOS 16, and my Safari browser, it freezes quite often. It's very, very annoying. So there's no phone that's without bugs. Inherently, most phones at some point in time in their life cycle have bugs, especially when they first come out or when they have operating system updates. It's a thing. It's not the end of the world. So when you talk about this phone, I think a lot of people want it to fail because the perception is that the Pixel 6 and 6 Pro had so many problems. Ergo, therefore, the Pixel 6a should have problems. And it just doesn't. And that's kind of the resounding thing at this point in time. I've been covering the Pixel 6 and Pixel 6 Pro since they came out, and we had our share of problems, and it was like almost cringing and gritting your teeth every time a new update came out because you didn't know if something new was going to get broken. It was the Wild West, and it was some interesting times and some really bad times. I know some people with the Pixel 6 and 6 Pro that have told me they're on like their third device because they've replaced it, or fourth device or second device, and I have never experienced that in my life. The only phone I've ever sent back, actually two, that I've ever sent back to have worked on are the Flip 5G, the Z Flip 3, the Z Flip 5G because my screen was messed up, and the same thing with the Z Fold 2. Only two phones I've ever had to get a replacement for. So, yeah, the Pixel 6a, it's a good phone. I've been using it. Like I said, and I was, people were concerned, like, oh, the phone overheats all the time. It doesn't overheat. The only time I've ever had a Pixel 6 phone overheat is when I take it out in the sunshine, in the super hot weather, and record 4K on 60 frames per second. I tested it out a couple weeks ago with the Pixel 6, and it was like 99 degrees outside, and yeah, it overheated, the Pixel 6 Pro overheated in about 6.5 minutes. I'm sorry, if you take any phone other than basically the S22 Ultra and hold it out in the sun in 99, 100 degree weather and record 4K for any amount of time, at some point in time it's probably going to overheat. So the Pixel 6a, the first day or two, it got a little warm, especially while I was just doing random things like having the screen on for a long time and browsing the internet, surfing, going through Twitter, and I told people to expect this. The tensor chip, first couple of days, maybe even the first week, sometimes it does get warm. It thinks really hard, I guess. There's something very, very unique about this phone. Most phones only have one primary core. Out of the 8 cores, they have one primary core. They're like 3 gigahertz cores, and that's your main processor that shoulders the heavy workload when you're doing a lot of stuff. One of the reasons that the tensor gets so hot is because it has not one primary core, but 2. It has a lot of power under the hood, and it has a lot of custom cores for AI, machine learning, things like that. One of the great things you get with Android, especially on the Google phones, is it learns what you do on your phone. So it knows what it can shut off, what it can turn off, what it cannot pay as much attention to, what it cannot spend resources on to optimize the battery and the performance. And I've even had people that are saying, oh, it gets bad battery life. People that don't even have the phone saying it gets bad battery life. The battery life seems to be pretty good, and I predicted that this phone should have probably the best battery life out of the Pixel 6, Pixel 6 Pro, and the A series because only a 60 hertz refresh rate. Now, of course, if you take the Pixel 6 and turn it down to 60 hertz, or you take the Pixel 6 Pro, turn it down to 60 hertz, it will improve the battery life. I'm going to make a video about how to get better battery life on this phone because nobody's ever happy with the battery life. For every person that says they get good battery life, there's somebody else that says they get terrible battery life. So I'm going to make a video specifically for you so you can get the best battery life possible out of your phone. It's something I like to do with phones because, come on, we can always get a little bit more battery life out of these phones, right? So tensor chip, 6.1 inch screen, the fingerprint sensor, ta-da, works like a champ. And actually, it seems like it's gotten better for me as the days have gone on. I haven't had problems with the fingerprint sensor. It works out great. So I know some people, I actually made a video about it earlier or yesterday. There have been some big YouTubers over in India that have been able to unlock their Pixel 6a using an unregistered fingerprint, which is very, very curious. I made a video about that. I don't think it's a widespread problem. We'll see what happens with this. We'll see if, as it's been talked about, more people pop up with it. But it should be a pretty easy fix for Google as far as fixes go. I'm pretty sure it's just a programming issue for the new sensor. Probably something they overlooked. Wouldn't surprise me at all. Wouldn't be the first time. So I've been enjoying using it. I haven't had any problems with it. And I think that's good. I think I like to report this stuff so that way if you're interested in getting it, it gives you some confidence. I'm not trying to sell you one of these things. I'm not a salesman. If you buy one, go buy one. If you don't want to buy one, don't buy one. But I think it's a pretty decent product. And one of the questions a lot of people ask me is, well, should I get this or the Pixel 6? Do you want to save money or do you want to get the higher refresh rate, slightly larger screen with the better camera in it? And I even got to put quotations, air quotes, around the better because if you watch my Pixel 6 versus Pixel 6a camera review, you can see that the camera shots are pretty darn on par. As much as people said this camera was going to be terrible before it even came out and before it even got tested, it's still a really good camera. It takes pretty darn good photos. So a lot of these things that you might hear about, it's got a terrible camera, it's got an older camera, it's slow, it's clunky, it's got a 60 hertz screen on it, the battery life's terrible, it overheats, it freezes, and basically none of those things I have found to be true personally. The only thing that I can give any sort of weight or credibility to when it comes to a lot of those arguments is, yes, if you put it on 4K 60 and you go out in the sun and you turn it on and record, it could possibly overheat at some point in time. Maybe it's 4 minutes, maybe it's 8 minutes, maybe it's 10 minutes. It was nicer today, and I've been feeling under the weather. I haven't been able to have to go test it anymore. And I'm waiting, as I said in my last video, going to give it about a week for everything to settle in before I go do that, because it's not really fair to test the hardware until the hardware is fully adapted and you got the adaptive battery kicked in and all that good stuff. So, should you pre-order one? That's one of the questions a lot of people are concerned about, because the pre-order window is actually really nice. Because if you've got an older Pixel phone, I believe Google, even with the Pixel 3a, or 4a at least, I know, if you trade it in, they're giving you $300 trade-in credit and a $100 pair of Pixel A series earbuds. That's a great deal. That's basically $400. You got to shell out the extra $50 plus tax. That makes it a really appealing offer. So my thought process is, if you've got an older phone that's several years old, and here's the other thing. People said the 4A overheats. People say the 4A 5G overheats. People say the 5 overheats. If there's a Pixel phone, there's somebody somewhere saying that it overheats. The only one I ever had overheat on me that I had problems with was the Pixel 5A, and that was a noteworthy issue. And then here's the funny thing. A year ago, whenever I was saying that the Pixel 5A was problematic because it was overheating if you just use the camera app for a few minutes, you've got everybody else saying it's 4K 60. Nobody expects you to use 4K 60 on a Pixel 5a. Therefore, it shouldn't matter. And now people think that it's a problem. So the issues they change all the time. So my thought process is, I use it on a daily basis. I've used the Pixel 6. I've used the Pixel 6 Pro. I've got a lot of hours clocked on these things, a lot of videos, probably 100 videos in the last year I made about these things. I have confidence in it. I personally would buy it. Yes, Google sent this out to me. I bought my other ones. I don't owe any allegiance to these guys. I could be kicked off of this whole Team Pixel program at any point in time. I've had not nice things to say over the last year about the software problems and the network connectivity issues and the myriad of problems the phones have had. So I don't really have any qualms saying when something is bad. It doesn't bother me. The only person I care about is the consumer. If I think that you're getting a bad product, or you will get a bad product, I will certainly tell you. And if I find something that is bad, I will tell you as soon as I find out about it. And that's why I like to talk about this stuff, and that's why I like to do deep dives and talk about a lot of the things on this phone, because there's a lot of stuff out there, and I don't think they're bad phones. I don't think they're